Okay, guys, we're going to be talking about lesson 9.3, Area of Trapezoids. And this is the last two-dimensional shape we're going to learn the formula for. Area of Trapezoids. And then we're going to put them together, trapezoids, triangles, parallelograms, rectangles, squares, in our last set of notes, 9.6, and we're going to make shapes with those and then have to figure out the area of those odd shapes. So let's talk about what exactly is a trapezoid. Always need to do some vocab at the beginning of a lesson. So it's a quadrilateral, quad meaning four, lateral meaning sides. So a four-sided figure. A quadrilateral with one set of opposite parallel sides, or opposite sides that are parallel. I like that better. Now, you probably are going to be able to finish these notes in one page. It's going to take me a couple slides to do it just because of room. Okay. So let me draw a figure of a trapezoid. So it kind of looks like a triangle that somebody's chopped the top off. Remember we talked about these little triangles indicate that those are the two sides that are parallel. Notice that they're not congruent, so I don't have those little tick marks that would say that they are congruent. So these have two, we're used to seeing for a parallelogram we had two bases, but they were exactly the same. In a triangle we had one base, and then the opposite side would have a vertex, a point to it. So this guy actually has two bases. So we just call one of them base 1 and then base 2. And I use a little letter. They call that a subletter, so it's base sub 1 and base sub 2. And then it would be inside the shape from base 1 to base 2, perpendicular, and that would be the height. So it is stretching from the tallest part of your trapezoid to your shortest part, perpendicular, basically on both sides. In fact, I could put a little box right there at the top as well. So let's write a little bit about those bases. So base 1 and base 2 are parallel. Base sub 1 and base sub 2 are parallel. Notice I'm not saying they're congruent because that would not necessarily be true here. And we only have one set of parallel sides. And then the height is perpendicular to both bases. Perpendicular meaning meets at right angles to both bases. So we've got a new formula, but it's going to have aspects of what we've already seen before. It's kind of an interesting combination, actually. So the formula for the area of a trapezoid I'm going to tell you got to memorize it. And it looks like this. A equals 1/2 the sum of base sub 1 plus base sub 2 times the height. So you have three numbers that go in there, and a fourth number, the half. So it's got a half like a triangle. But because there's two bases, we kind of have to figure them out. So if you just look here for a moment, this is like saying, let's add the bases and divide by 2. That's kind of like finding the mean of the bases. Now, it's interesting when you get into geometry class, you'll learn about other things in the trapezoid that will be interesting to calculate with. So that's where the 1/2 is kind of like coming from the triangle. The formula, 1/2 times the bases times the height, it's kind of like a triangle. And we it's also kind of like finding mean of the two bases, okay? All right, so we are going to launch in, let's see, I think I have room to do it here. We're going to do 2 on this page and 2 on the next. So this is going to be find the area of each trapezoid. And the first one is going to be, usually you see drawings, okay? Now, this is a special trapezoid. He's called a right trapezoid because of that right angle for the height is actually a side of the trapezoid. So we've got the top base is 5 inches, the height is 7 inches, and the second base sub 2, is 12 inches. So the first thing I do is identify my 3 key players. So I have B1 is the 5 inches, and I just usually look at the top for base sub 1, and base sub 2 is the bottom. Now they can draw these sideways so that the bases are right and left of each other, so you got to look for the 2 sides that are parallel. Those are your bases. And then the height is going to be that 7. It's meeting at a right angle, and it's separating the 2 bases from each other. Now, I'm going to start with my formula because I want to memorize it. A equals 1/2 the sum of the bases times the height. So I get area equals 1/2, and then we're going to have 5 plus 12, and then we're going to multiply that by the height, which is 7. So I'm going to let you know that sometimes your numbers work out pretty. Sometimes you get decimal or fraction answers. That's okay, but you can't write them as improper. If they're fractions, they have to be mixed numbers because this is trying to figure out a measurement, and all measurements need to be done in mixed numbers. So we get 1/2. We got to take care of what's in the grouping symbol first. That's 17, and then we have a 7. So here's what I would propose that you do. In the event that I cannot take half of either of the other 2 numbers because they're odd, I'm just going to go ahead and multiply the 2 big numbers together. And then I'm going to take half of the answer. Okay? So I'm going to multiply, and I'm just going to do it off of here. 17 times 7, so I get 49. I get 1/2 times 119. So I'm going to continue my problem here. And I'm going to take half of 119. So I'm going to divide in there. And 2 goes into 11 5 times, which is 10 with 1 left over. And divide 2 into 19 is 9 times, which is 18. And I have 1 left over. Now I kind of like to go with decimals when it's measurement. And so I'm going to put in my decimal point, make sure it's in my quotient, in my answer, bring down a 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times evenly. So then we would just say the area is, and remember area is always in square, whatever, square units. The area is, and we'd say 59.5, and then it would be square inches. And so I like to use the exponent way of writing my square inches. Okay, so that's the first one. Let's look at the next one. Next one has the longer base on top and the shorter base on the bottom. The other thing that's kind of interesting about this one is that it shows the height outside of the shape. And they do that sometimes just for, cleanliness reasons, I guess. So that number, excuse me, is going to be 0.3 feet. So we're going to be working with decimals here. So the base on top is 1 foot in length, and the base on the bottom is 0.5 feet in length. So I'm going to identify my 3 key players. Base sub 1, we'll just take the top is 1 foot. Base sub 2, we'll just take the one from the bottom is 0.5 or half a foot. And then we have the height is going to be the 0.3 feet. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and write my formula. I keep writing it, so I'll memorize it. That's how I've learned things, it's just by repetition. and I get 1/2 times the sum of 1 plus 0.5, and then I'm going to multiply that by 0.3. Now, I've been kind of mean with my numbers, and none of these so far have been even that I could divide the 2 into from the half, so it's just what it is. So I simplify, and I get area is 1/2 times 1.5 times 0.3. So let's see, I can do 15 times 3 in my head, which is 45, but there's 2 digits after the decimal point. Oh, I have an extra, sorry. Get rid of that guy. I don't know why I did him twice. But there's 2 digits after the decimal point, so my answer is going to be 0.45. And so then I'm going to take half of that. Okay, and that's going to give me, I'm going to do the math right here. I'll do it up here. How about that? 2 goes into 0.45. So I put in a decimal point. 2 goes into 4 twice evenly. Bring down the 5. 2 goes into 5 twice, which is 4, with 1 left over. I'm already behind a decimal point, so I can just annex a 0 as I needed. And 2 goes into 10 5 times evenly. So I would say the area is 225 thousandths square feet. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Okay. All right. So now on the next screen, when you get caught up, you can pause if you need to. We're going to talk about, well, what if they tell us the area and the bases, but they don't tell us the height? How do we figure that out? So I'm going to go ahead to my next screen. New set of directions are going to ask us to find the missing height of each trapezoid. Of each trapezoid. So we're not going to ask you to figure out a missing base. We're just going to ask you questions on the missing height. Okay. So what you're going to find is interesting is you don't see diagrams anymore. They're just going to list out the information. So they're going to say the area is 24 square centimeters. They're going to say base of 1 is 4 centimeters. They're going to say base of 2 is 12 centimeters. And they're going to say height equals, I don't know. So we're going to start with the formula. A equals 1/2 the sum of the bases times the height. And we're just going to plug numbers in. So A is 24. 1/2 stays 1/2. B sub 1 is 4. B sub 2 is 12. And H is just going to stay as H. Okay? So let's go ahead and take care of what's in the grouping symbol first. That's what order of operation would tell us to do. And 4 plus 12 is 6. Oh, I say 16 and I wrote 6. And then I can actually take half of 16, and that's going to give me 8. So now my problem, I'm going to use my symmetric property. I have 8h equals 24. So then I'm going to divide both sides by 8, and I get h equals 3. So the height is 3, and it would just be regular centimeters. I wanted to write feet. Okay, we got one more and then we're done. So this one says area equals 21 square yards. Base of 1 equals 2 yards. Base of 2 equals 5 yards. And then we get height is what we don't know. So we're going to start with the formula. A equals 1/2 the sum of the bases times the height. So we're going to get, substitute in my numbers. We get area is 21. We have 1/2. We're going to have 2 plus 5 for the bases. And then h is just h. So we're going to go ahead and simplify. We get 21 equals 1/2 times 7 times the height, h. Now I'm going to multiply 1/2 times 7. So that's going to give me 21 equals 7/2 h. Ooh, let me change that to pink. Or actually, it's kind of peachy color. Okay, so I'm going to use my symmetric property and write it as 7/2 h equals 21. Okay, so you guys may not remember doing this, but the fastest way to get rid of a fraction is to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over 7 on both sides. Now I am going to show you an alternative if this is too hard. Okay, it's just going to take us 2 steps to do it. So this leaves me with just h equals, 7 goes into itself once and into 21 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. So the height is 6, and let's see, this one is yards. So notice, not squared yards, just plain old yards. Okay, so let me show you an alternative to solving this problem. So let's say that kind of scares you to multiply by the reciprocal. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to work, get rid of that denominator first. So up high, I'm going to multiply by 2. 2 over 2 is 1. And that's going to give me 7 times h equals 42. Then divide both sides by 6. So if you feel more comfortable solving, if you have a fractional coefficient, that means the number being multiplied by the variable, then you can do it in 2 steps. Get rid of the denominator by doing multiplication first, then get rid of the coefficient by dividing. All right, there you go, guys. Good luck. We'll talk about this in class. Bye now.